Why does it seem so challenging to start doing things that are good for you? This question may have crossed your mind more often than you think. Today we will explore this puzzle and its fascinating connection to a little chemical in our brains known as dopamine. This tiny molecule plays a massive role in our motivation, behavior, and how we perceive rewards. It's the key to understanding why we often favor instant gratification over long-term gains. So what exactly is dopamine and why does it matter? Dopamine, often labeled as the feel-good neurotransmitter, plays a crucial role in our motivation and reward system. This intriguing little molecule, dopamine, functions as a neurotransmitter, a chemical messenger between neurons in our brain. It's produced in several areas of the brain, including the substantia nigra and the ventral tegmental area. Now, dopamine is not just about pleasure, it's also about seeking and striving for rewards. It's the driving force that propels us towards goals and desires. Imagine dopamine as the carrot dangled in front of a gallant steed, urging it to move forward. Dopamine fuels anticipation, the chase and the yearning. It's what makes you crave that delicious slice of pizza, drives you to finish that gripping novel, or compels you to keep scrolling on your social media feed. But here's the intriguing part. Activities that release high dopamine levels can lead to a tolerance effect. Much like a coffee connoisseur might need an extra shot of espresso to feel the same buzz after years of consumption, our brains too can get accustomed to these regular dopamine surges. So when we engage in activities that release high levels of dopamine, like playing video games, using social media, or eating sugary foods, our brain adjusts to this new normal. It starts to find regular low dopamine activities less appealing and less exciting. The book you once loved reading or the walk in the park you enjoyed might no longer provide the same level of satisfaction. That's because these activities can't compete with the dopamine rush provided by the high dopamine activities. And therein lies the problem. When we're constantly chasing the dopamine high, we're essentially training our brains to be less content and less fulfilled with the simple, everyday joys of life. But what happens when we have too much of a good thing? Just like with anything in life, too much dopamine can lead to problems. That's where dopamine tolerance comes in. Now, what is dopamine tolerance? Picture this. You've just discovered a new video game. Every level you conquer sends a rush of dopamine through your system. It's exhilarating. But as time passes, you notice that the same rush isn't as intense. You're playing more, but enjoying less. This, my friends, is dopamine tolerance in action. Dopamine tolerance is a bit like taking the same route to work every day. At first, you notice every tree, every building, every bend in the road. But after a while, you stop noticing. The journey becomes mundane, even if the route hasn't changed. Similarly, when your brain is constantly flooded with high dopamine levels, it starts to adjust. It reduces the number of receptors that can receive dopamine, making you less sensitive to its effects. That's why the 100th level of your video game doesn't feel as thrilling as the first. But dopamine tolerance doesn't just rob your video games of their thrill. It can also make the rest of your life seem dull and uninteresting. You see, everyday activities like reading a book, cooking a meal, or even conversing don't release as much dopamine as video games or social media. So, when your brain becomes tolerant to high dopamine levels, these activities can start to feel like a chore. You might struggle to focus, lose interest quickly, or find it hard to get motivated. This is the downside of our modern, hyper-stimulating world. Our brains are bombarded with so much dopamine that they're adjusting to this new normal. In the process, we're losing the ability to find joy and satisfaction in the simple things in life. But don't despair. There's a way to reset your dopamine receptors. Have you ever heard of a dopamine detox? It's not as daunting as it sounds. Picture this, a reset button for your brain. That's what a dopamine detox is all about. So what exactly is a dopamine detox? Well, it's a method that helps reset your dopamine receptors. And no, it's not some fancy treatment you get at a spa or a clinic. You can do it right from the comfort of your home. It's about consciously avoiding activities that typically cause a high dopamine release. We're talking about activities like scrolling through your social media feeds, playing video games, or binge-watching your favorite series. You might be thinking, why would I want to avoid these activities? They make me happy. Well, that's the tricky part. These activities do make you happy because they release a lot of dopamine. But here's the catch. They can also make other, less stimulating activities seem boring or unappealing. This can lead to a lack of motivation, decreased productivity, and even feelings of unhappiness. The idea behind a dopamine detox is to break this cycle. By avoiding high dopamine activities for a while, you allow your brain to reset. This can help your dopamine receptors regain their sensitivity, making less stimulating activities more appealing and rewarding. But it's not just about avoiding certain activities, it's also about introducing new, healthier habits into your life. These could be activities like reading a book, walking, or practicing mindfulness. Although these activities may not produce the same dopamine spike as a thrilling video game or the latest viral video, they offer a more sustainable and fulfilling source of happiness. So, a dopamine detox isn't about depriving yourself of happiness, it's about redefining what happiness means to you. It's about finding joy and satisfaction in the simple things, the things that truly matter. Now, it's time to pause for a moment. Before we dive deeper into this detox, show some love by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It's a small click for you, but a giant leap for us. Your support helps us create more engaging content just like this. And hey, why not share this video with your friends too? Let's spread the word on this dopamine detox. All right, back to the topic at hand. You might wonder, what's in it for me regarding a dopamine detox? Well, let's paint a picture. Imagine waking up with a sense of serenity, a mind uncluttered by the need for constant stimulation. Your focus is sharp, like a laser beam, your productivity is soaring and you feel grounded and content. This is the potential power of a dopamine detox. Benefit 1, heightened focus. In a world brimming with distractions, the ability to focus is a precious commodity. Cutting down on high dopamine activities allows our brains to reset. It's like decluttering your mental space, making room for what truly matters. With less noise and clutter, you can direct your attention where it's most needed, boosting your focus and concentration. Next up, benefit number 2, increased productivity. When your mind isn't constantly seeking the next dopamine hit, you're free to apply yourself to tasks with more diligence. You might be breezing through that report or finishing that novel simply because you're not being pulled in many different directions. A detoxed brain is a productive brain. Lastly, benefit 3 is enhanced overall well-being. This one might seem a bit abstract, but stay with me. When we're constantly in the cycle of seeking and consuming high dopamine activities, it can leave us feeling drained and unsatisfied, like being on a roller coaster with no end. Dopamine detox can help break this cycle, leading to a sense of calm and well-being. You might find that you're sleeping better, feeling more energized, and generally more content with life. In essence, a dopamine detox is like restarting our brains. It's about stepping back from the constant barrage of stimulation and allowing your mind to breathe. It's about choosing your mental health and well-being over short-term gratification. So, what's in it for you? A clearer mind boosts productivity and an enhanced sense of well-being. It's about reclaiming your focus, your time, and ultimately your life. So, are you ready to give it a shot? A dopamine detox isn't about eliminating dopamine, it's about resetting your brain's reward system. So, how exactly do you go about this? It's simpler than you might think, although it takes discipline and commitment. First things first, identify your high dopamine activities. We often turn to these things for quick pleasure and instant gratification. They might include scrolling through social media, playing video games, binge-watching TV shows, or indulging in sugary foods. Once you've pinpointed these activities, it's time to take a break from them. This doesn't mean you have to give them up forever, but you'll need to step away to let your dopamine receptors reset. Now here's the critical part. Don't just eliminate these activities and leave a void. Replace them with low dopamine activities. These tasks might not give you an immediate rush of pleasure, but they're fulfilling and beneficial in the long run. Think about reading a book, walking, practicing mindfulness, or learning a new skill. These activities help to rewire your brain to appreciate and find satisfaction in the simple, everyday things. Once you've engaged in these low dopamine activities, it's time to reintroduce moderate dopamine activities gradually. These could be things like working out, cooking a healthy meal, or having a meaningful conversation with a friend. The goal here is to strike a balance. You don't want to swing from one extreme to the other, but instead find a happy medium where you can enjoy a variety of activities without becoming overly reliant on any one source of dopamine. This isn't about deprivation, but about balance and moderation. It's about teaching your brain to find joy and satisfaction in a variety of activities, not just those that provide a quick hit of dopamine. And here's the final piece of advice. Be patient with yourself. This is a process, and it might take time to see results. There might be days when you slip back into old habits, but that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Instead, acknowledge the slip, understand why it happened, and then get back on track. And remember, it's not a one-time thing, it's a lifestyle change. A dopamine detox is about more than just a temporary break from high dopamine activities. It's about reshaping your habits and your mindset for the long term. It's about learning to appreciate the simple joys in life and finding fulfillment in the journey, not just the destination. So there you have it. The secret to starting those good habits lies in understanding and managing your dopamine. In this exploration, we've dissected the role dopamine plays in shaping our behavior and motivation. We've learned that dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter, drives us towards activities that provide instant gratification, like gaming or endlessly scrolling through social media. But as we've seen, there's a downside to this dopamine-driven lifestyle. It leads to dopamine tolerance, a state where low dopamine activities, often the ones that require effort but yield long-term gratification, become less appealing. This imbalance can affect our productivity, relationships and overall quality of life. But fear not, we've also discovered a powerful tool to combat this issue: the dopamine detox. This is a purposeful break from high dopamine activities, a kind of reset for our brain's reward system. It's about creating a space to rekindle our interest in tasks that require effort but yield rewarding results in the long run. The benefits of a dopamine detox are manifold. It can boost motivation, increase productivity, and even improve mental health. It's like giving your brain a much-needed vacation, a chance to recalibrate and refocus. The idea isn't to eliminate dopamine. That's neither possible nor desirable. The aim is to manage it and ensure that it serves us rather than rules us. So as we wrap up, I invite you to try a dopamine detox. Start small, maybe with a day, then see how it feels. It might be challenging initially, but remember, the best things often come from stepping outside our comfort zone. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out our other videos and keep this in mind. Your journey to a better you starts with understanding your brain.